Some groups are easy to join and almost impossible to leave. Sound familiar? That's not a quote from a late-night documentary about high-control cults. That is Pope Leo XIV, speaking from the high altar of St. Peter's Basilica on April 26, 2026. He was describing in stark and unmistakable terms exactly the kind of community the Church is never supposed to be. If you've ever sat in a pew, a ministry meeting, or a small group and felt a cold knot tight in your stomach, if you've ever felt trapped, guilt-tripped, or controlled in the name of God, if you've ever wondered whether taking a step back meant stepping away from your faith entirely, this episode is written specifically for you. Today, we are diving deep into one of the most pastorally significant and psychologically profound homilies delivered from the Vatican in recent memory. We're going to break down why authentic spiritual authority never suppresses personal freedom, how to identify the subtle hallmarks of spiritual suffocation, and why, according to the head of the Catholic Church himself, a truly healthy faith community will always give you the room to walk out the door. Stay with us. Let's untangle this together. One, the day and liturgical setting. To understand the weight of Pope Leo XIV words, we have to look at the ground he was standing on. The occasion was the fourth Sunday of Easter, known across the global church as Good Shepherd Sunday. On this specific Sunday every year, the Universal Liturgy turns its attention to John chapter 10. This is the passage where Jesus uses the rich, pastoral imagery of first-century Israel to describe his relationship with his followers. He calls himself the Good Shepherd, but he also uses another, more specific metaphor in John 10 verse 9. He calls himself the gate for the sheep. 2. The occasion. An ordination mass. This wasn't an abstract academic lecture or a routine Sunday address. This mass in St. Peter's Basilica was an ordination service. 10 men were kneeling before the altar, about to be ordained as priests for the Diocese of Rome. Imagine the scene. Thousands of pilgrims packed under the soaring dome of Bernini's Baldacchino, family members wiping away tears, and 10 men laying prostrate on the cold marble floor. Pope Leo XIV was speaking directly to these 10 future shepherds about how they were expected to exercise power over human souls. But at the exact same time, he was speaking past them, straight to every lay believer sitting in the pews, and to anyone listening across the world who has ever been on the receiving end of religious authority. 3. The historical and cultural image. The sheepfold gate. To grasp the brilliance of the Pope's analysis, we need to picture the gospel image as a first-century Palestinian villager would have seen it. In ancient Palestine, a sheepfold was often a rough, low enclosure made of stacked fieldstones. It had a single opening, a gap in the stone wall. At night, after driving the flock inside to protect them from wolves, jackals, and thieves, the shepherd didn't lock a wooden door with a key. The shepherd was the door. He would wrap his cloak around himself and lie down across the open gap, His very body became the human barrier. No predator could get in to harm the sheep without stepping over him. But equally important, during the day, that same shepherd would stand aside, allowing the sheep to move out into the open hills to find green pasture. Look at the dual nature of that image, protection and freedom. The gate was built to keep predators out, not to hold prisoners in. The moment a shepherd turns the sheepfold into a prison wall, he stops acting like a shepherd and starts acting like a captor. This historical reality forms the entire backbone of Pope Leo XIV homily. 1. He does not stifle our freedom. Let's zero in on the single most critical sentence of Pope Leo XIV's entire address. He said plainly, "He does not stifle our freedom." Let that line hang in the air for a moment. Think about the profound weight of a reigning pope explicitly declaring that authentic, Christ-centered faith never suppresses human liberty. For centuries, one of the most persistent and frankly, often justified criticisms of organized religion is that it operates as a mechanism of control. Critics argue that religious institutions use dogma, guilt, and the threat of eternal damnation to flatten individuality and demand unthinking compliance. What Pope Leo XIV is doing here is remarkable. He isn't denying that religious control exists. Instead, he is establishing a rigorous theological standard by which the Church itself must be judged. If a community or a leader crushes human freedom, it is no longer operating in the image of Christ. Authentic divine love respects the integrity of human free will. God himself risks being rejected because he refuses to coerce us. Therefore, any religious leader who uses coercion, emotional manipulation, or forced compliance is working against the very nature of God. 2. Naming spiritually unhealthy groups. Pope Leo XIV did not hold back. He directly contrasted the community of Christ with what he termed communities that suffocate, and groups that are easy to enter but almost impossible to leave. Without targeting any specific canonical organization, because these dynamics can sprout in a small parish committee, a monastic order, a lay movement, or an evangelical megachurch, let's analyze what social psychologists and theologians identify as the well-documented markers of high-control religious environments. Isolation from outside support, slowly cutting members off from family, old friends, or outside information sources under the guise of holiness or protecting your purity. The weaponization of doubt, treating honest questions, intellectual pushback, or constructive critique as signs of spiritual weakness, pride, or demonic influence. Immunity of leadership, creating a culture where the leader's authority cannot be questioned, scrutinized, or held financially and morally accountable. Unbearable exit costs, ensuring that if a person decides to leave, the cost is catastrophic: loss of family ties, public shaming, character assassination, or the terrifying declaration that leaving the group equals leaving God's salvation. Pope Leo XIV called these dynamics out from the highest pulpit in Catholicism. He identified them not as high standards of holiness, but as spiritual pathologies. 3. Come in and go out and find pasture. Let's look at the Pope's exegesis of John 10 verse 9. They will come in and go out and find pasture. Notice the direction of movement, in and out. In unhealthy systems, movement is strictly one way. You are welcomed with intense enthusiasm, what psychologists call love bombing, when you join. But the moment you express a desire to step back, take space, or explore a different path, the atmosphere turns cold or hostile. In Christ's model, movement in both directions is the hallmark of spiritual health. A healthy parish or ministry is a base camp, not a trap. You come in to be nourished, forgiven, and formed by the sacraments and community. You go out into the broader world to live your life, exercise your conscience, work your job, and engage society freely. If a religious community treats your desire for outside space as a sign of treason, it has lost the gospel. 4. Life does not end in a parish, in an association, in a movement. This was perhaps the most surprisingly blunt pastoral statement of the entire homily. Pope Leo XIV reminded the faithful, life does not end in a parish, in an association, in a movement, in a group. Consider the pastoral wisdom here. It is easy for even good Orthodox Catholic or Christian movements to become insular bubbles. People can slowly begin to substitute the group for Christ. The movement's internal culture, jargon, and social hierarchy become their whole world. The Pope is issuing a vital warning against spiritual insularity. No single parish, no lay movement, no spiritual director, and no ministry program should ever become the full horizon of your life. They are tools to help you love God and your neighbor in the world. They are not meant to replace the world. Five. Aggression, thieves, and robbers. The reality of spiritual violence in the gospel reading, Jesus uses sharp language. He speaks of thieves and robbers who enter the fold to destroy. Pope Leo XIV applied this directly to modern spiritual leadership, warning against those who disregard personal boundaries and inflict spiritual aggression. What does spiritual aggression look like in the real world? It rarely looks like physical violence. Instead, it operates through psychological and spiritual manipulation, using a person's private confessions or vulnerabilities against them to enforce compliance. Framing personal preferences of a leader as the explicit will of God. Leveraging guilt, shame, and the threat of divine punishment to force people into burnout through endless volunteer work or financial giving. The Good Shepherd does not drive the sheep from behind with a whip. He walks ahead of them. He calls them by name. His voice is recognized by its calm, non-coercive truth, not by fear. 6. The charge to the newly ordained finally. Tie all of this back to those 10 men kneeling in St. Peter's Basilica. This homily was a masterclass in priestly formation. Pope Leo XIV was telling these future pastors, your authority is given to you to protect the flock's freedom, not to build a personal empire. You are called to be a gate that offers safety, not a warden who keeps inmates locked away. Simultaneously, the Pope gave the laity a rubric. He instructed the faithful on what they have a right to expect and demand from their clergy: protective love, transparency, humility, and a deep respect for personal liberty. Now let's bring this home. How do we take Pope Leo XIV teaching and apply it to our everyday lives? One, a gentle self-assessment for your own community. Take a quiet, honest inventory of the faith environment you currently inhabit. Can you respectfully disagree with leadership on non-essential matters without being labeled disloyal or spiritually immature? Can you ask tough questions about finances, governance, or doctrine without being shamed? If you need to take a break due to family obligations, mental health, or burnout, are you met with grace, or are you ghosted, criticized, and guilt? If your community fails these basic checks, hear Pope Leo XIV clearly. That is not what a Christ-centered community is meant to look like. You are not crazy for feeling uncomfortable. 2. For those who have left a high control group, if you are listening to this and you carry the painful scars of having walked away from an unhealthy religious group, I want you to hear this framing loud and clear. Walking away from a suffocating, manipulative community is not the same thing as walking away from God. So often, high control groups deliberately equate themselves with the Almighty. They convince you that if you leave them, you are stepping off a cliff into spiritual destruction. Pope Leo XIV dismantles that lie. The Church's doors are open to lead you into abundant life, not to cut you off from life. Your decision to protect your soul and your freedom from spiritual abuse may very well be the most faithful step you've ever taken. Three, for parents, teaching healthy boundaries. If you are raising children, how do you teach them to navigate authority? We must teach our kids the difference between healthy structure and unhealthy control. Healthy structure, whether in a church, a school, or a sports team, explains the why, respects personal dignity, accepts honest mistakes, and encourages growth. Unhealthy control demands blind obedience, uses shame as a motivational tool, isolates kids from their parents, and punishes questions. Teach your children that no coach, teacher, youth leader, or priest has the right to force them to violate their conscience or isolate them from those who love them. 4. Non-alarmist markers of a healthy parish. When you are looking for a parish or ministry to call home, look for these practical, quiet indicators of health: financial and governance transparency, clear public reporting, and active lay advisory councils. Freedom of expression. Leaders who welcome scrutiny, invite questions, and aren't threatened by intellectual curiosity. Focus on the sacraments over personality. The ministry centers on Jesus Christ and service to the poor, not on the personal charisma or lifestyle of a single leader. Respect for your vocation. Leaders who recognize that your primary duty may be to your family or profession, rather than spending 30 hours a week volunteering for church programs. Let's address 3 vital questions that come up whenever we discuss spiritual freedom and religious authority. Question 1. Isn't some structure, discipline, and obedience actually healthy in a faith community? Response: absolutely. Structure, doctrine, and accountability are essential. The Catholic tradition has a rich 2,000-year history of spiritual discipline and holy obedience. However, we must distinguish legitimate authority from spiritual suffocation. True discipline builds up the human person. Suffocation crushes them. Legitimate authority invites you into a holy order that expands your capacity to love. Control isolates you and punishes honest questions. Pope Leo XIV is not advocating for theological anarchy. He is condemning the weaponization of structure to crush human freedom. Question 2. What if my concerns about my parish or ministry are dismissed as just doubting your faith? Response: this is one of the most common manipulation tactics in high-control settings. Framing legitimate questions about leadership, culture, or safety as lack of faith is a logical fallacy designed to silence you. Discernment, honest questioning, and testing the spirits are explicitly commanded in Scripture. 1 John 4 verse 1. Seeking truth, demanding financial integrity, or wanting a safe environment is not a sign of weak faith. It is a sign of mature, responsible faith. Question 3. Does this homily apply to non-Catholic churches and non-religious organizations too? Response: 100%. While Pope Leo XIV was speaking as the Bishop of Rome to a Catholic congregation, the underlying human dynamics he identified are universal. You can find high-control suffocation in non-denominational megachurches, corporate startups, political movements, academic departments, and fitness subcultures. Wherever human beings gather around an ideal, there is a temptation for leaders to substitute control for authentic inspiration. The principles of freedom, boundary respect, and transparency apply everywhere. If this episode helped you put words to something you felt in your gut for a long time, pass it along to a friend. Share it gently with someone who might be struggling in a heavy or confusing faith environment. Hit the subscribe button to join us for next week's deep dive. And as always, if you are currently in a spiritual or domestic situation that feels unsafe, abusive, or coercive, please reach out to a trusted professional counselor, a healthy pastor, or local support resources in your area. You do not have to carry that burden alone. Thank you for spending this time with us. Walk in freedom, stay close to the Good Shepherd, and we'll see you next time. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. Rest in the truth that God's love never coerces you. His grace is a refuge, not a prison. For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore, and do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. Galatians 5 verse 1. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom. 2 Corinthians 3 verse 17. You are known by name. You are held in love. You are safe in the hands of the Good Shepherd.